Hey guys and girls, Board now back with you. On this video I will be returning to Ozark. So this is Ozark, Season 4, Episode 5. It is called Ellie. Full spoilers from the start of this review. So another really good episode, really strong stuff again. I only really have one complaint about the episode, and that's with the opening, because we start with a flashback where we see Mel in like a previous life, and it makes sense that we start this time because a lot of times the flashbacks will feature like characters who we haven't really covered in that much detail, little bit of a backstory. We've had that with like other sort of like lesser supported characters, and it's revealed in Mel's backstory that he was once, a detective, and he got busted for snorting cocaine. He was like a drug taker, like an addict, and I'm assuming that that's what led to him being fired, and obviously he has that in his past, and it's kind of why he went into obviously being a private investigator. So I think it's pretty fair to say they've introduced that, so that could be something which the birds use against him later on as a way to like maybe force him to like leave them alone. It's something definitely which could be used against him later on. I think that's a fair assumption, and that's the reason they've shown us the flashback. But just to get to it, my complaint is just I think with pretty much all the characters in this show, at one time or the other, they seem to be like addicts, or it just seems to go there. And I think it would just be nice maybe not to do it with like a character once in a while. I understand it's that sort of show, and it probably feels like quite realistic, but yeah, I think just sometimes it would be nice not to go there, because I said with Rachel in like season 2 or whatever, her falling on hard times and getting like hooked on drugs, it frustrated me a little bit, although it actually, served a storyline purpose there, and I did like the end of Rachel's arc on the show. But yeah, sometimes it would be nice if you could have like, characters who don't have those, like, obviously like everybody's flawed in a way, we all have our issues in some way or the other, but I think just to have a character who doesn't get hooked on drugs or isn't an addict would have been sort of a nice change. But as I said, I think it's fair to say that's going to come back to haunt him at some point in the actual show. So in the present, what we see of Mal in this episode is then he continues to sniff around and kind of make suggestions, and I always enjoy the back and forth between him and Marty. They sort of both have like quite sarcastic like sense of humour, so them just playing off each other is always quite sort of funny, and Mel does have this quite sly sort of like way about him, like dropping hints in there. And he mentions obviously then he talked to Wendy's father about Ben, and based on that he comes to the conclusion then Ben killed Helen. He makes that suggestion. Obviously he's wrong on that, but you can see why he would come to the conclusion. So obviously he continues to like ask questions and stuff, and that sort of leads to Wendy's action in this episode, because things start to get out of hand, and it sort of like justifies Marty's criticism of her last time out about her strategy and actually trying to use Ben's name and obviously lying about it for like good publicity. It actually justifies Marty's like criticism then that was a mistake, because things start to get out of hand, and we see the Darlene Wendy feud, which is a great feud. It's like one of my favourite feuds of the show. really intensify it and go to a whole new level in this episode, because Darlene starts putting like missing posters of Ben around the town, which obviously gets Wendy back up, and she blames Jonah because he actually does, working for Darlene, he actually does put them up, but he says she put me up to it. And this is when, obviously, as I said, the rivalry really intensifies like none other. But it actually like calls Wendy into action, like forces her to take action. So what she does is she officially announces Ben as missing, and she actually, puts out like a missing persons report on him. And it's obviously a smart, sensible thing to do, because it's this sort of like cover where people might say, well, yeah, maybe he is legitimately missing, maybe she doesn't know. Obviously there's this sense of time in why wait till now, but it's definitely understandable why Wendy does it. Like it's almost like her hand is forced into it, and things, as I said, really go to a new level with her and Darlene, and them just trying to one up each other. And it's it also takes to a new level because of when Marty and Ruth go into partnership and actually sign a deal with Claire. They obviously, they start using Ruth's stash, but Darlene, I think, as another way to like get at the Burge behind Ruth's back, she like sells some drugs to Frank Senior. I think it's Frank Senior, and he sells them to a couple of people. And there's this tension where Ruth and Marty struggle to get the drugs back, which obviously could cause problems with Claire. Now they sort of buy them back from one, but another one is like refusing to give them back, and eventually they talk him into giving it back later. But once again, you see that Darlene stirs some shit up there. And yeah, the end of the episode is very dramatic and tense, because after all this shit has gone down, like Darlene comes over to like Wendy's and starts shouting at her and screaming on the front yard and outside. And yeah, she gets so intense because Wendy has like got sort of the last laugh in the situation, and she's just there sort of smiling and kind of doing the innocent act, but like rubbing the salt into the wounds. And Darlene just gets so uptight and so stressed out, then she literally has a heart attack. And it's this really dark scene again, not just because she has the heart attack, but because Wendy appears not to be willing to help her. Because when it first happens, it obviously shakes Wendy up, but then you see how cold she can be, and I guess it just shines through how much she hates Darlene, because she starts ringing like she's gonna call like like the ambulance people, but then she sort of pauses, and there's a long delay of her actually like making the call, and she's just looking at Darlene all the time in this very cold sort of way and smiling. And I really like the direction of the scene as well, because we actually cut to like the end credits with the phone sort of ringing, and I think it's only at that stage where Wendy actually is about to make the call, so she leaves it as long as possible. So it was going through my head then, oh my god, I think we're about to lose Darlene maybe, but so they definitely play it as a bit of a cliffhanger. It's really well done. So yeah, the stuff with like the drug business and then the missing posters definitely stir things up between Wendy and Darlene like none other in this episode. Another interesting subplot I thought was the stuff with this senator, and obviously Wendy in particular, where he mentions how his son created like this technology which can like rig elections, and I think it's obviously something which just has like Wendy interested, because she's, as things go on and she starts to get more power, it's like she just wants her hands in more and more pies, and obviously is interested in getting back into politics and things like that. And she sees it as a legitimate way to go, because he reveals that his son was never investigated for it, so they're sort of in the clear to actually do this. But it also just makes you think, oh my god, then probably this technology does exist, and who knows? I mean, who knows if it's actually been used or carried out at some point. Something like this, something similar, you can imagine the technology is there to do that. So that's pretty scary if you think about it. But that's another like intriguing subplot, and once again goes to the heart of like the satire of this show. So really good stuff again. That's Ozark, episode 5 of the 4th season. Final season now, so obviously counting down to the final episodes this week. So couple more episodes now until I'm ready. Look out for some special Ozark content this week. I will obviously be starting the final episodes on Friday. Review of the first one will be up on Friday. Also, I'm planning a live stream tomorrow where I'll watch the next 2 episodes, and also I'm going to plan a special video where I speculate on some of the things that might go down at the end of Ozark and how I think things will resolve themselves. So plenty of Ozark content this week. Look out for that. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media and give me your thoughts on this episode. And I'll see you guys again soon.